Hi, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jocelyn, and I'm the APAC growth lead for MakerDAO. So MakerDAO is actually one of the oldest DAOs, started in 2015, and then we built a decentralized stablecoin protocol called DAI, and also a lending protocol allowing users to borrow loans in DAI against their own crypto assets and also tokenized real world assets. So I personally joined crypto or DeFi space back in 2017, and I've seen how crypto space actually evolves and how DAOs emerge from different verticals in the space over the years. For the audience who don't know what a DAO is, as what Jonathan actually said earlier on, DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. And it is essentially, an entity with no central leadership figure. There's no CEO. There's no hierarchical structure. It is just merely a virtual organization where, the decision-making and decision-making process and also treasury management are managed by the smart contracts or the blockchain. So today we have an amazing panel on DAOs and why they're significant. Where we'll be talking about what is DAO, where the space is at and what it is evolving into, and how you as a user or business can participate in this new trend or organizational structure. So we have Tarun from CoinShift. So CoinShift actually built a treasury management tool for DAOs to manage the treasuries. And then we have Jacob from Clearpool Finance, which is an uncollateralized lending protocol that allows institutions to borrow funds from a decentralized network of lenders without the need for collaterals. And then we have Toshi, which is a Japanese incubator to grow the Web3 and DAO ecosystem in Japan. So welcome all the panelists. So first off, maybe a question for Toshi from Fracton Ventures. So what is the DAO landscape now in Japan? Are there a lot of DAOs emerging from, say, the GameFi landscape or the social fi landscape or more DeFi? Maybe perhaps you could actually share with the audience here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for inviting me. Nice to meet you again. I'm Toshi from Fracton Ventures. Also, Fracton Ventures have the first and the only Web3 incubator in Japan. So last year, actually, Web3 and the DAO, I think the business scene, it's not too big like potential in Japan, but right now, everyone really interested in the Web3 and the DAO right now. Also, but yeah, it's very important thing is that I think the Web3 startups, the exit is turned down, right? I think that decentralized, but in Japanese Web3 startups, they can produce distribute token, but they can't sell token in Japan. It's because of regulation. So they want to create the ERC20 token, like governance token. So the every startup can the fundraise with token, right? Like Safto. But we can do that. So yeah, so Web3 start in Japan, it's really how can I say hurdle it's really difficult, the barrier in Japan. But so the entrepreneur in Japan moved to Singapore, Dubai, Lisbon, then they create Web3 startups right now.
I see. Okay. So that's probably one of the key challenges because due to the regulation, right?
Yes.
How do you,
Sorry.
So how do you then incubate or bridge Japanese startups to abroad, to a more regulatory friendly environment like Dubai and Singapore?
Yeah. Actually, so they need to they live outside, right? First.
Yeah.
So, but they don't have money because they Web3 entrepreneur is too young. So that we can support them to go global. And then, we entrepreneur kind of DAO is there is a lot of knowledge and know-how, or where is where we can try to produce and distribute token, or which area is better for that project or something like that. So we can like share the knowledge and know-how in community right now.
I see. So what are the trendy DAOs that is emerging in Japan, or
actually the
like
one
Japanese DAOs?
Yeah, actually the one of the famous, like I mean, like not right now DAO, but it's gonna be DAO. It's like the Asta network. How you know that? Yeah, Asta network is a parachain of Polkadot. The TPL is really increasing right now, so it's really famous one, and also like DeFi, like in Solana, like UXD protocol, which is algorithmic stable coin, or like I think DeFi is really trendy right now. But in Japan, I think that I think that don't need to be have only ERC20. I think NFT governance is really cool. Like I think so. I think some startup can use the NFT to governance to become DAO. I think
Oh, that is interesting actually. Yeah, interesting perspective. Thanks, Toshi. So I think moving on to Tarun, right? I mean, also DAO, there are like different DAOs out there, and they all have treasuries, and I mean, back in the days, 2017, 2018, you hardly see any DAO treasury management tools in the space. So what is the state of DAO tooling now at this juncture?
Hey everyone, like I'm Tarun, founder and CEO of CoinShift. Yeah, sure. So before really jumping into the DAO treasury management or the state, I think there is common a meme going on as well. Like there are more DAOs, there's more DAOs tooling than the DAOs itself, right? So what exactly is basically how I see this as how the space has evolved in terms of the state of DAO tooling is, end of the day, what we really want to do is we want to manage this DAO ops, right? And we are just figuring it out, like the basic fundamentals, how we should scale DAOs, right? And till now, what we have identified as like, okay, there are some generic frameworks where we can just have our native token kind of treasury, and now we need to allocate certain kind of budgeting system where we can have multiple working groups, and all those working groups are working independently. Obviously there are a lot of challenges of accountability. How will you, and even if you are saying accountability, how it can be programmable, and all those things are definitely a challenge. But what we have identified till now is like you have a larger kind of DAO with the maybe certain protocol has exited 50% to their community, right, as a shared cap table, and now we want to scale the operations of that DAO. For scaling the operations, it is like not a new model of pod kind of system, right? And in corporate governance as well, we have this pod kind of system. But the good part of this new system is basically we can have like verifiability built into that. If certain treasury is allocating certain budget on an underlying committee, the token holders can see that, right? Obviously, it's a question like how much details you have, but end of the day, these things are programmable and verifiable, right? And that is the beauty of it, because that's how we should not compare this thing to the corporate structures, because it's more of like government, right? So government is allocating budgets, and then certain committees are behaving in a certain manner. So once you understand like there are certain DAO ops, I just see like a two different kind of verticals in major verticals in terms of the tooling itself. So the first vertical, as you were, I think, mentioning as well, like majorly on the governance side of things. So how will you really set up a DAO, right? Once you set up a DAO, you have your treasury. How will you really, let people vote on a certain thing? Like, and what could be those decisions which you really want the community to get involved, right? Maybe for protocols, the decisions are definitely like maybe on switching a fee or charging a fee on a certain method, or maybe on certain protocol functions you want the community to should participate, right? And that emerges as a very good design space, because the needs just changes if the DAO just changes, right? So for a community DAO, the governance could look very, very different. You can't just compare the governance of protocol DAO or community DAO is like very, very similar. So this specific governance framework has like a lot of potential itself to emerge as a new design kind of space. And how I see this, like There are a lot of governance frameworks are out there, like Compound Bravo framework is there, where you have delegation built into that, time lock built into that, right? And a lot of DeFi protocols are just choosing that framework, right? It's more of a generic framework for DeFi protocols, right? But there is a multi-sig system, which is Gnosis Safe, which is more of a system to distribute trust in a decentralized way. It doesn't care whether you have like 50 members or 4 members, you can still distribute trust. Definitely it has a lot of issues. So that kind of framework is more usable for small working groups, right? And then when you combine that system with the snapshot kind of system, with the reality kind of module, it just, completes the governance framework itself. So I just see that this category will evolve like anything. Like maybe specific kind of governance frameworks will occur for certain kind of systems. And because let's say investment DAOs are very, very different, right? So that is the space which is emerging. And then Gnosis Safe is there, as I'm mentioning, Aragon is there, Compound Bravo framework is there. Then we have Orca protocol is coming. So it's like the governance side of things. Then we have a lot of tooling around aggregator platforms. Now you have a lot of DAOs, or maybe you want to just discover DAOs, right? So there are deep DAO is coming, or governance platforms like Boardroom, Tally is there. You can see what is exactly happening, who is voting on what is the voting power, all those things are happening. So that is another vertical you can see, right? Then why this governance is happening? So governance is majorly today happening is on the treasury decisions. Majorly, if you just see, right, you want to allocate certain budget, now vote it to the community, how the money should flow. And then the question comes, like, what kind of tooling should exist on the treasury side of things? So the second vertical I just see on the treasury side. So on the treasury side, you can have the fundamental need of any DAO is to survive longer, and then maintain your treasury so healthy so that you have the definite spending. So I just see like spending tools are there, right? We are also falling into that category in our V1. So there are more tools onto payroll or compensation specifically. And then I see like asset management is like another vertical in DAOs where the asset management will look like very different. So that is another vertical. UMA likes protocol will use into that. So these are like certain verticals I'm seeing in the last year or so, which each vertical has a lot of potential. But the one major thing we need to understand here is like we should build definitely core kind of composable primitive so that these systems should communicate somehow, right? Otherwise we'll all building be like in a silos mode, and we'll be locking out the user in one single platform. So that is the challenge we also see, and that's why we're working on the V2. But this is something like the state of DAO tooling I just see.
Okay, thanks, Tarun. Thanks for the your view. And so moving on to Jacob, right? I mean, as a rather new protocol, how do you start, building a DAO governance process, with all the voting system in place? Like there are a lot of DAOs out there that claim to be a DAO, which promise to decentralize decision-making power. But yeah, I mean, like, how would you make sure that, all token voters vote, and then, how do you make sure that the community actually did the right decision, risk assessing the new borrowers that you onboard to Clearpool Finance?
Yeah, thanks, Jocelyn, for the question. So once again, Clearpool, we are a DeFi protocol, and we're doing unsecured loans for institutions. So mainly like trading firms that are our borrowers. So regular other DeFi protocols that you might know, such as MakerDAO, obviously Compound, Aave, obviously they work on the basis of over collateralization. So there's more collateral there versus the loan that is being taken on. And then obviously in the absence even of a trusted intermediary, these protocols are very safe. Now what we're doing is we're saying there's a lot of trustworthy institutions, and therefore we need to do some sort of like assessment of those institutions, and then those institutions are able to take out loans without any collateral. Now, while this obviously solves a problem, it is also very, very important to get this right? So it's I would say quite a sophisticated protocol, and assessing these borrowers, it involves quite a little bit of a good understanding of financial concepts, credit risk, as well as really doing some due diligence on the counterparties involved, right? And therefore, what we started with is we started with an approach that is very much a progressive approach towards decentralization. And at the very beginning, it is actually relatively centralized. So on the borrowing side, we're doing KYC and we're doing a credit risk assessment on those borrowers. And that is, managed centrally. So with a team of obviously like our own team and a team of experts that we have as advisors that are sort of like setting in place those parameters. And then, as we go, what we sort of like came up with is that we have this concept of limited governance, where we want to be really aware that if we just let our community completely decide on everything, especially at the very beginning, it can be a few players that hold most of those tokens, and if they have the power to skew all the terms in their advantage and really make changes to their business model, this is obviously relatively dangerous to the protocol. So we sort of have certain parameters when it comes to defining a interest rate curve, which defines the interest rate paid by those borrowers, but also especially certain parameters when it comes to deciding on the credit risk assessment. And there, within a range that obviously again is initially centrally identified, we have the community first of all maybe be educated on those parameters and then take a few of those decisions, but always within a range that we make sure that we protect the protocol and we protect all the participants of the protocol. Another thing here is we got to be wary that it's sort of unrealistic for everyone who is a C-pool token holder to really go in and conduct their own credit risk assessment of those borrowers. It's not just unrealistic, it's actually impossible because they don't have the understanding, but also they don't have the access to the financials, et cetera, right? So here again, we want to equip them more with the tools, right? We want to show them what is our assessment. We want to make this as transparent as possible. And then we want to involve them in some sort of like decisions around putting different weights to the different categories that we assess. And that could be, for example, one of the decisions that our token holders and our community is doing. Also, when it comes to how can you make everyone participate, we believe that just a lot of protocols give, and I mean, it's understandably, you just give plain rewards to everyone that participates. So there's a vote, you vote and you get a reward, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone really thinks a lot about what there is to vote if you just incentivize pure voting. So we actually went more with the approach of delegation. So if you are a community member, you can also delegate your vote to any member of the community. Here, we see that there's some also individuals in the communities that are highly engaged within our chats, etc. So it could be some of those guys, or it could also be some of the borrowers, some of the lenders, some of the VCs that are taking a more active approach that will be delegated towards like taking those decisions. And then ultimately, I think it's always about alignment. Right, people are contributing if they feel that they're aligned with the protocol, and this is why what we went with, and I think what's working quite well. Again, we are very new, so we will need to see is that part of the protocol revenue is actually going to our token holders in the form of repurchases. So the well-being of the protocol and the revenue that the protocol makes actually benefits its token holders. And again, here we want to give token holders a say on how this revenue is spent basically, and what to do and what share should be used to repurchase tokens. Yeah.
And just to clarify, right? So C-pool token as the governance tokens, right? For Clearpool Finance.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So I see some questions actually coming in from the audience. So let's maybe take a few questions now. So one of the questions is, what are some of the most creative solutions that you have seen DAOs execute in order to survive regulatory issues? Do these problem-solving skills strengthen a DAO's community or collapse them? So I think it goes back to say in Japan, right? I mean, it's impossible for a DAO to actually mint their own governance tokens, and then and it's also very difficult to actually get tokens listed on the exchanges unless they're whitelisted by JFSA. So I don't know, like any views on this, Toshi, or anyone? Feel free to take the question.
Yeah, anyone? Do you have some answer? No? Sorry, question again? I can't, get it, everything, I think.
Okay. So yeah, the question is that, like, because there's regulatory issues now in Japan, right? So what do you do to I mean, like, one of the solution now is actually like moving DAOs outside of Japan, right? So
yes.
Yeah, but then you're having all this talent flow outside of Japan. So is there anything else that you're working on right now to retain these talents in Japan, for example? Or how do you what else do you do to strengthen the DAO community in Japan? Because if they launch their project outside of Japan, like and they have like some Japanese community members, so how do you do to strengthen that?
Yeah. Okay, got it. Okay. But once again, I think I said, but I think we can use NFT for governance.
Yeah.
Because sometimes like ERC20 is that no good, like I think that everyone can't participate in like governance, I think. So some kind of noisy person is, I think, in how can I say, get into the like DAO community or are like using ERC20. So I think NFT is one of the solution for like in Japanese DAO's ecosystem, I think.
Okay.
Also, we are lobbying the government, but it's kind of slowly too,
Okay. Yeah. I get that. I work with them a lot too. So yeah, and another question from the audience is that so with the fundamentals of DAO, will it be a challenge to get institutional buy-in, and even to relinquish a certain degree of autonomy to encourage mass adoption? Because I think DAO inherently is a very, very new organizational structure concept, which a lot of people can't wrap their head around with, and how do you see traditional financial institutions or traditional organizations, merging with say, DAOs? So I think so I think, as what I feel is that, there are a lot of incumbents in the traditional financial space, right, today. They started using cryptos in their treasury management strategy. And and how do you actually see, this impact, between the centralized finance and also decentralized finance?
Yeah, maybe I can take this. We see that there's quite a little bit of I would say obviously there's a bit of hand holding, but there's also I feel that centralized finance and decentralized finance to some extent, we see there's a new trend, that there's a bit of a merge, right? And obviously, as you mentioned, right, there are some traditional finance players that are not yet comfortable with dealing with the DAO and everything that it entails, which is complete autonomy, etc. And for example, in the lending space, we see the rise of initiatives such as Aave Arcs. So Aave is a decentralized lending protocol, usually completely trustless. But Aave Arcs is their sort of like institutional product where everyone is being KYC'd on both the lending and the borrowing side. So obviously this goes a little bit against the initial idea of DeFi. Right, but it is a little bit of a permission DeFi, they call it. So it takes a few good things of, I would say, of DeFi and that work really well, but it sort of like gives traditional players that sort of like institutional checks and background that they require in order to be comfortable. That framework that they require in order to be comfortable to participate. So I think permission DeFi is becoming as well a little bit of a topic, and there's definitely like a lot of solutions that are playing around that. And I think also with Clearpool, we are a little bit in going into that direction where we are somehow centralized by also doing some sort of KYC. But then I think we're a little bit of a mix, where there's a lot of protocols that are really going towards catering to those institutions and becoming a little bit of a mix.
Okay. Yeah. So, and we have one more question here. So what are some of the use cases where DAO can easily be used today? Is there any advice on maintaining a successful DAO in the long term? Anyone want to take this? Maybe Tarun?
Yeah, sure. So I think definitely there is, I think it's so early right now to say like it's a playbook, right? What kind of playbook you can give to really run like a government kind of organizations? Literally, it's very difficult to say, but I would say like definitely there are some fundamentals of thinking when you are just thinking on the DAO use cases. So I just see like investment clubs or investment DAOs just make like a lot of sense. Maybe they're not thinking through the token side of things, right? End of the day, the certain group really wants to pool money and want to invest, and it can or cannot be combined with the KYC kind of thing, right? So DAO kind of model can emerge as an investment club, right? Where they definitely do off-chain contracts with the startups, but end of the day, they pool money in a certain contract, and that's how the system works. So investment DAOs, I just feel like definitely makes a lot of sense. Then if you are building a decentralized protocol, and I'll just say like in the beginning, you need to iterate very, very fast, treat it like a product market fit kind of thing. But if the protocol really, really becomes very, very big, I think DAO is just like a fundamentally a better model to govern that protocol, right? So protocol DAOs definitely makes a lot of sense to me. So, and then the third category I can see is, I think a lot of community DAOs, right? A certain kind of community DAOs can definitely make things really, really good. So FWB is a good example. And then I think Links DAO is coming up, where they have like, these golf clubs around the globe where you can have certain rights, how the memberships will look like, or all those things, right? So you are just getting everyone participated, and where the coordination and group kind of thing just makes a lot of sense. So the fundamental is that. So you need to think through whether I need a consensus on certain kind of thing or not before even like, thinking on the DAO use case, right? So investment DAOs, community DAOs, and then protocol DAOs make sense. But for protocol DAOs, I just see like it should be like a product market fit and all those things, at least. So these are some categories. And just on the playbook. So I would say like if you're a builder, or if you just want to make your DAO successful, so if you're a builder, just think through the fundamentals of the space, how the composability of the space just works. So whatever you're building for this space to run like a successful DAO, it should be, try to make it things composable so that others can build, or others can easily see, or others can easily verify. So these are like some of the things you can adopt. And if you really want to see certain DAOs, like how they're behaving, is you can obviously take an example of MakerDAO, right? So MakerDAO is like quite, I would say, successful OGs of how to run like a DAO, literally how to run like a DAO in multiple working groups, and how you should definitely create those groups, dissolve those groups, right? And maybe thinking through the governance side of things, like the governance should be able to do that not autonomously, right? So these are like some of the examples we can see, which is working very, very successful. Even the Compound, Uniswap, these are very successful examples of DAO governance for now.
Yeah, so you name drop a few exciting DAOs, Lens DAO, and then the FWB, some OG DAOs like us too. I mean, there are some challenges that we are going through, but we are learning along the way. So and maybe a question for, I think more for Toshi and Jacob, like, so what are the most exciting DAOs, like in the space DAO that you see in Japan, and also both in your area of work, Jacob? Yeah. Any exciting DAO that you really like a lot?
Yeah, I think I'm personally, I'm just quite fascinated with maybe the Curve DAO. I think is quite interesting. It's not a new one, but it's one of those OG DAOs as well. And I think what they managed to create is really, a lot of value around their governance token and their voting power, right? So you need to stake their governance token Curve, to get voting power, and then in order to decide on all these different like reward distribution. And it got to an extent that you had these Curve wars, right? And protocols that were just built in order to sort of like accumulate Curve voting power and sort of like, vote on all of these decisions, which, I think is a very good example how a protocol really created very meaningful governance, which goes beyond just, deciding on how a protocol evolves. So I think the Curve DAO and their voting process is sort of like a little bit of an example for a lot of other protocols.
Okay. So Toshi, any DAO that you particularly like?
I'm interested in climate DAO, like a Klima DAO, or like DeFi. I think it's a new like a buzzword, DeFi. Also, I'm interested in Beta DAO for like decentralized science. So I think so Web3 and the DAO field, not only like DeFi or something like that, it's to like more social like problem to solve social problem. Yeah, I like that.
Okay. Yeah, wow, that's a lot of, takeaways for the audience here, like again, do your own research, read about the project itself. There's so many DAOs out there, emerging in like different verticals. And it's actually exciting for an existing DAO like us as well. So yeah, I think we are running out of time. So thank you all the panelists for the interesting discussions today. And if you have any questions, the audience, you can always reach out to us, through the organizer or like, our LinkedIn. Yeah, thank you everyone.